So a major climate report from 13 agencies was recently dropped. In fact, it was dropped on Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, when everybody's paying attention to the news. Just a little bit of highlights here. I should tell you, 13 agencies, 13 federal agencies report. This is a congressionally mandated report. There has been 4 of them since 2000. The last one came in 2014. It's the National Climate Assessments publication, or I should say report. It is overseen by the U.S. Global Change Research Program. The report stretches over 1,000 pages. So my understanding is that conservatives will discount it because they want all reports under 10 pages. The authors argue, remember these are 13 federal agencies, that global warming is, quote, transforming where and how we live and presents growing challenges to human health and quality of life, the economy, and the natural systems that support us. They conclude humans must act aggressively to adapt to current impacts and mitigate future catastrophes, quote, to avoid substantial damages to the U.S. economy, environment, and human health and well-being over the coming decades. I don't know how much of this involves what we can expect internationally and the implications of what will happen internationally and what will happen to national security because of that, specifically in terms of what happens overseas. Hundreds of scientists and federal officials who spent months working on the detailed document were frustrated but not surprised that the administration chose to release it on the day after Thanksgiving. Several people involved in the report said its release originally had been planned for early December, but then the administration's officials decided on Black Friday. Here is Rick Santorum on CNN, just absolutely giddy at the notion that this dire report from 13 federal agencies was underreported.
President Trump appears to be at odds with his own administration over their new report warning about the effects of climate change. Did we mention that the administration released the report on Friday of a holiday weekend? Let's talk about that. Rick Santorum is nodding his head.
Good for them.
Good for them.
Yeah.
All right. Well, at least you guys are transparent about it.
Well, I mean, this is a report generated by people who are in the bureaucracy. These are not Trump appointees. I mean, this report's been generated for...
Meaning they're non-political.
Well, no, that I think the point that Donald Trump makes is true, which is, look, if there was no climate change, we'd have a lot of scientists looking for work. The reality is that a lot of these scientists are driven by the money that they receive. And of course, they don't receive money from corporations and Exxon and the like. Why? Because they're not allowed to, because it's tainted. But they can receive it from people who support their agenda. And that's what...
These are all federal agencies. They receive money from the government. But this is the point that he's making, I guess, right? That Trump makes. It's continued. This is just stunning.
And that's what, and that I believe is what's really going on here. No one doubts that the climate is changing. No one doubts that. The question is, how much does man contribute? Number one, and number two, what can man do to actually change it? And those are the two big issues which we really don't talk about.
But that's all that people are talking about.
It's all Republicans.
That was a cool, though, every single part of the conversation is the second part.
Well, and the fact of the matter is that the reason why we don't hear people deny that the globe is warming is because it's not 6 years ago when all the Republicans completely denied it.
I think Inhofe is probably still denying it.
Inhofe is still saying it's a complete hoax, and so isn't Rush Limbaugh. In fact, frankly, so isn't the president when he tweets out that it's cold. So much for global warming.
Makes you think.
But I mean, it is pretty stunning, and it's also, I appreciate the fact that CNN I mean, presumably they did a report on it, and they're looking for other ways to talk about the report, and this is one of them, that it's being completely subjugated by the Trump administration. I just don't know how Rick Santorum can look into the mirror. Well, I know how he does it. He just says that God wanted me to lie today on CNN, and I did, and I've done my job. And then he calls Foster Freeze and says, I did my job. Please send more money. Really,
if it's about money, people protesting at, for instance, his house like they did Tucker Carlson's would probably drive up his leverage when he goes to ask how much money he, should make for going on to continue to deny climate change.
And I love the idea that Rick Santorum thinks that there's just not enough science to be done out there. The scientists
they figured out all the important stuff, and now they're just messing around.
There's a limit on science.
If climate change didn't exist, all these climate scientists wouldn't have anything to. They'd just be like reporting on the climate and saying, "I did research, and it's the same as it was yesterday."
There's no openings at the Weather Channel.
Well, like a fundamental misunderstanding.
They got to
of what
keep this
scientists do.
You really think Rick Santorum
or
is
obfuscation?
a fundamental?
Yeah, it's just impressive to me, like just the depth that people will sink with such a big smile on their face.